Okay, so we can get started for today. Today, we are going to be focusing on the Arizona Employment First Initiative. So, I really like to have guest speakers for you, and this month you're kind of stuck with Jessica and I again. But we wanted to follow up from last month's conversation. So, we're going to be talking about how we all of you and us, are moving forward together in community. That's the point of Employment First. During our July Topics and Tactics session, we reached out to all of you to give us some feedback. We were so pleased with that discussion. We actually sent a survey out with the same questions so that people who weren't able to join could offer their feedback, or y'all could have done it twice if you had more time to think about your answers, because we really wanted to capture everyone's brilliance surrounding this initiative and how we can achieve our goals. So, we've identified some of the themes that came up from both our discussions last month and the survey that we sent out. And we want to share those themes with you, how the Employment First initiative is moving forward in community together. So, we will be posting the PowerPoint and this recording on the Employment First webpage. At some point, hopefully by the end of the week. Sometimes that takes a little bit of time. Just so that you all know, you can go back and reference any of this information after the fact. So I'm going to share my screen and get our presentation started. Hopefully we're all ready. So, again, it's Arizona Employment First, moving forward in community. My name's Gina Griffiths. I may have neglected to mention that. I have the privilege of being the Employment First coordinator here at the Sonoran Center. And what that means is I get to work across the state with so many of you and so many other brilliant people to advance the Employment First initiative. Also, hopefully, with us is my amazing colleague, Jessica Winchester. I haven't seen yet if she's on, but hopefully she is because, oh, I hear her. I hear her. Okay, so she's going to help me out with this today and jump in because she and I work on this together. So, do you want to say hello, Jessica?
Yeah, hopefully everybody by now I've been have a chance to meet you either virtually or in person, but very happy to be here. I'm the Employment First Program Manager, and Gina and I are a team, a very amazing and awesome team here. I love working with this Employment First team and all the partners here. So I'm excited today to come here and share those results with you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jessica. We are a team and we consider all of you part of our team. And just so you know, we do a lot of hard work, but we have a lot of fun. So it's a good team to be a part of. Um, and I'm gonna try to keep an eye on hands up and chats and all that good stuff. But if you need me, unmute yourself and holler in case I'm missing something, because sometimes I get stuck in the presentation. So here's how we're going to do this today. We're going to talk really briefly about the Arizona Employment First Initiative, give you just 5 minutes on that again. We did it last month too, but it helps to set the context for the focus of our work. We're going to go through what some of those themes were that came back from the feedback that you all have provided to us. And we're going to talk about what that means and how we're going to move forward to talk about some of the successes and challenges that have been identified, and ensure that we are continuing on success and overcoming the challenges. And again, we always invite you all to join the movement with us. And you're here, so we know that you're part of it with us. And we're grateful for that. So, our overview of Employment First. And Jessica, jump in whenever you want, okay? Um, our Employment First project, we have an identified vision, and that is that employment is the first and preferred option for all individuals with disabilities. Period. There's no other extra words we need to say. That's our preferred outcome, that choice for everybody. We are committed to move employment first principles from theory to action. We've all been talking about employment first in Arizona for a really, really long time. And making change is a slow, sometimes painstaking process. And we want to move from all the talking and all of the good things we know to some changes that actually will have meaningful impacts on the individuals that are seeking jobs. We want to dismantle barriers, amplify strengths, and promote a diverse workforce. We all know that that's not the easiest thing to do. It's easier said than done, but together we can make good progress in overcoming the obstacles and using the things that we're good at to be successful. And we want to ensure that every individual can contribute to and thrive within their community, making employment not just an aspiration, but a reality for everyone. So sometimes I say that employment first is just that employment is the preferred option for everyone, period, right? That's just the way we all thrive. So let's go on to our next slide. Our implementation strategies are collaboration. We have a lot of folks on this call today representing a lot of organizations and a lot of different levels, doing a lot of different things all across the state. And sometimes that's our challenge. We need to bring all of those different groups together. Sometimes those groups have different priorities, but we need to find our common ground and come together. So we're continuing to work in partnership with key stakeholders. A lot of times it's the Developmental Disabilities Planning Council. They are so important in this movement. Arizona APSI, if you don't know what that is, we'll talk about it a little more later. Our local employers, our service providers, our families, our educators, everybody. It is also important to us that we're focusing on data-driven decisions. That's why we sought feedback from you. It's not just Jessica and I deciding, okay, this is what we want to do. We want to respond to what the community actually needs. We also want to use evidence-based practices, things that have been proven through rigor and data to be effective. We're using those to build our foundation for everything we do. We want to build, again, that foundation. We want to enhance it. We want to make it stronger. We want to provide more opportunities, more training, more resources. And it's all through communication. Transparency is a key value to us. You might think you hear us talk too much, but we want to make sure that we are being clear about why we're doing things, where we're doing things, how we're doing things, because we need the trust. We need everybody to understand where we've been and where we're going and how we plan to get there. And we have to communicate that to keep everyone engaged and trusting in the process, because it is a process. So this is an overview of what our community feedback process looked like, how we gathered the information that we gathered. In our July topics and tactics sessions, we held focus groups. And then during the rest of July until a week ago, we sent a survey out to anyone who had ever attended a topics and tactics session in the past. And we focused on 3 questions, both during our July meeting and in our survey. We asked you all, what would success look like for you or your community if Employment First worked the way it should? We asked you all if you could share a story or an example of when someone in your community wanted to work but ran into challenges. While we love focusing on success, we have to acknowledge the things that aren't working in order to be able to mitigate those barriers and have successful outcomes. And finally, we asked you if we could only focus on one thing over the next year to improve employment outcomes, what should that one thing be and why? We will focus on more than one thing, I promise you. We were just curious as to what your priorities were. So, um, so this is the exciting part because we got all that information. So we're going to explore the themes. We're going to talk about what you guys shared with us. So within the three questions, there were some common themes that came up across all three questions. And I want to start by saying none of this is a surprise. Many of you have been doing this work for a long time. I know a lot of you. And we all have in our heads, here's what needs to happen. Jessica and I have in our heads, here's what needs to happen. But the point of this exercise is to make sure we don't have some different sort of bias influencing our thought. We wanted to see what everyone thought needed to happen. And it turns out that all the things y'all were thinking, those are the things everyone's thinking. The things that we are thinking are the common concerns of our whole community. So, well, there's not going to be anything earth shattering or groundbreaking in these results. It reinforces what we know. And now are, we have that evidence to show that this is what the community truly thinks. And it's not just what a couple of us think and hope is correct. So, across all three of our questions, our overarching themes are that there's a lack of employment first awareness out there in general. And I've started engaging in my own little unscientific survey recently because in my life I know a lot of teachers. I'm sure we all do. So I've been just randomly asking teachers. So it's not a representative sample. Do you know what employment first is? I have a friend who is a high school guidance counselor, and she said, no, I have no idea. So it made me realize that I don't talk about work very much when I'm not at work, apparently. I don't know how you all are about that. But I want high school guidance counselors to know that employment first is a thing. So overall, across systems, you all identified that there's not as much awareness on employment first as we need. So that helps us to know we need to focus on marketing and getting the message out. Another overarching theme that came up across all of our questions and answers is that there are issues with system alignment and coordination amongst systems. And we are going to talk a little more specifically about some of that as we go into the specific answers or the specific questions and what came out of them. But again, I don't think any of you are surprised to see that system coordination and a lack of system alignment are barriers to the work that we're doing. I think you're all just going, yep, I thought so. We are going to need some structural and policy change. And again, that's something that we've all known. We are identifying what some of those changes can be. We are identifying what some of the policy changes can be. There have been a lot of efforts over time to make some of the changes to policy that need to be made for success, but this helps us to know where we're going to need to drill down. Another common idea on all our three questions from all our three questions is that we need earlier transition planning and an earlier expectation of employment. Those of you who participated in the survey were very, very strong that we're introducing this idea of employment too late. And we know what the laws are and we know what needs to go into IEPs, right? But in terms of how we're really effectively communicating with young adults and older youth and their families, we're not making those expectations as clear as we need to, and that's hindering our progress. Another common idea is that families need more support. Families are tired. We know the IDEA conference is, I think, next week. We know that transition is a chaotic and stressful time, that families are burnt out in a lot of different ways, and then a whole lot of new information comes at them, a whole lot of new responsibilities, a whole lot of changes to their routines, and they're tired. They're very, very tired, and we need to work on ensuring we're giving them the right support in the right way, and not adding more burdens that are causing more stress in an already stressful time. Um, Obviously, we need to increase inclusive opportunities. Again, something that we all know, it's not surprising. There's not a lot of opportunity. There's not a diversity in jobs available. We need to continue to chip away at that big problem. And we do that through employer engagement and education. And when we start talking about our plans, there are some exciting things on the horizon. And we're hopeful to really start, what is it they say, cracking that nut on employer engagement. It is a challenging thing. You all have been doing the work. You know it. You're the ones that told us, but we're going to be here as a support to help make some significant progress. So let's talk about each question specifically. Again, I'm going to say raise your hand, chime in, put your ideas in the chat. This does not have to be me babbling at you. That is not our goal. So please offer your thoughts. We are always eager to hear them. So our first question was, if Employment First is working the way it's supposed to, what would success look like for your individual situation or the community you work in? And the answers, again, are not surprising. These are not ranked. These are just in general the themes. This has been a quick timeline, so we don't have a lot of the detail and data analysis put into place yet, but we've got the big ideas to share with you. So one of the things that recurred so commonly is that if Employment First is working the way it needs to, there would be a belief that people can succeed in competitive integrated employment. And that tells us we're still seeing a lot of people who don't believe it. We still hear that word unemployable. Take that word out of your vocabulary. If any of you are using that word, stop using it. No one's unemployable. That is not a word we should be using. We have to believe that people can succeed in competitive integrated employment. Otherwise, we don't belong in this field. I'm just going to be really honest. If you don't think that people can work, maybe workforce development isn't the right place. That might sound brutal to some, but we have to believe in it in order to make it happen. If Employment First is working in the way that we all need it to work, there would be more collaboration across all systems. And I think that's something we know. And I'll say is, it's painful, kind of an old timer. Some of you out there have been around a while with me. We've made so much progress, folks. If you're new and you're frustrated because you think that the systems don't collaborate well, trust me when I say that it used to be a bigger barrier, and we are heading in the right direction, but we're not there yet. So we need to keep working on it. Specifically, it commonly comes up, and it did during our survey and our focus groups, that we need vocational rehabilitation and the Division of Developmental Disabilities to have more alignment in their supports. There are barriers that negatively impact people in the way folks ideally could seamlessly move through services, yet it's not happening. There are differentials in payment structures, there are differentials in policies, there are differentials in training. And again, I'll say, if you were around 10, 15, 20 years ago, we have moved so far. We've like come over mountains. But there are still some significant mountains ahead of us. And we're going to continue working at that. And I can tell you all, because I'm lucky enough to be in a position of working with a lot of the folks leading employment services, and these programs in those agencies, that they are working on it. They really are doing all that they can, and identifying ways to improve all the time. So we're keeping at it. Um, this answer made me happy, and I think many of you may squirm or tighten up a little bit when I say it, but if Employment First is working to its fullest extent, there would be fewer congregate programs. And that's true because congregate programs are segregated programs, and it's hard. It's a system that we've built. It's the way the system is designed today. But when we look at what we know about segregation and integration and inclusion, um, decreasing the number of congregate programs is good for Arizona. And it's part of what's going to happen as we continue moving this work forward. So, but that doesn't mean things just need to disappear. No one says we want Employment First to succeed and we want fewer congregate programs, and that means all those people just go home. That's the last thing anyone wants. What we want are people having meaningful opportunities to engage and work and fulfill their dreams. So we're here as a support in that way. Another outcome, if Employment First is working as it should, is that all people have equal opportunities. And I think that's one of my favorite takeaways because that's really the point. Sometimes we forget to think of this as a social justice issue, but it is. In 2025 in Arizona, not everyone has equal opportunities. Um, and Employment First seeks to address that in terms of people with disabilities and their opportunities to work, contribute to society, earn money, save money, um, fulfill their dreams. So I think that's beautiful, and those are the things that motivate me. Obviously, employers would hire inclusively. We know that not all do, not out of maliciousness, often with lack of knowledge. And we're here to help provide that knowledge, right? The knowledge and the resources for people to um, hire qualified workers to meet their business needs in ways that mean everyone has equal opportunities. Um, Accessible transportation. If Employment First worked the way it would, there would be accessible transportation. Yes, rural, urban, doesn't matter. Transportation's a barrier. Um, because I work across stakeholders, I'll tell you, I see people in rural settings say, oh, in the big cities, you guys have it so good. And people in the cities think, oh, out in the rural areas, they don't have these problems. There are transportation problems in all areas. They're different problems, but there are problems, and we don't have accessible transportation for people the way we need to. And myths about benefits would be dispelled if Employment First worked the way it should. And for those of you who've known me a long time, you know that I've done work in that area. And we are going to continue to offer some resources through Employment First Topics and Tactics through this series. But that's still such a common reason for people to not pursue employment, and for the families of job seekers to be afraid about pursuing employment, because people think they're going to lose their health care and they're going to have less money, and it's not the case. People have more money when they go to work. 99.9% of the time, people can retain their health care when they go to work, or often have more health care options by working. So we have to keep getting that message out to the world so that those myths stop. When you hear people say that that an individual should work limited hours because they have to preserve their benefits, tell them no, it's wrong. We don't want to limit people's hours. We want people to work to their own individual potential, and we don't want to put any limits on that. Okay. Any thoughts, feedback? You guys are quiet.
You put
Did we
something
made
in
you?
the chat, Gina.
Oh, excellent. Okay, let me look in the chat. Let's see, guys. Oh, yeah, there's a lot. Sorry, I've been missing all sorts of things. Oh, you were introducing yourselves. That's great. Let me see what else. Sorry, I'm slow. Oh, the Employment First website. Okay, good. You put that there. And may I ask what your take on individuals seeking supportive services to start up self-employment goal, however their disability is a hindrance affecting two or more of their functional capacity? Um, I'm gonna say, in general, I am a huge fan of self-employment and entrepreneurship. It didn't come up much in our survey, but I don't mind talking about it for just a minute. Um, so it people with disabilities start their own businesses at twice the rate as people without disabilities. I don't know if y'all know that. Um, that to me, I interpret that as a lack of opportunity for employment in the community, and people with disabilities oftentimes have an incredible sense of resiliency and determination. So they start their own businesses if they don't have opportunities. And I think it's amazing. There are a lot of resources for folks, and there is not a lot of knowledge of what those resources are. So we have internally had some conversations about how we might be able to share some of that information, some of those resources regarding disability owned businesses and self employment. Um, the Sonoran Center is in the midst of a customized employment pilot. We're going to talk about customized employment a little bit with some of the other questions. And we've had some really thoughtful engagement surrounding customized employment and disability entrepreneurship. There are some super cool opportunities. So, my thought is that people can have a lot of barriers, but still have a lot to offer. And it's all about having um, a support team. Anyone who starts a business, whether they have a disability or not, usually has some other level of support. Maybe it's that they're really big on idea generation and starting their business, but they're not good at detail, so they're going to get a bookkeeper to manage their books, right? Because it's not their strength. This is just what people do. Um, and we have to be creative in thinking that people with disabilities just need to do the same thing. I'm going to play to my strengths and I'm going to bring in supports to help with the areas that I need help. So that's my personal opinion. Um, Regardless of what their functional barriers might be. If someone has a dream, let's look at what the resources are to to pursue that dream. And again, in terms of disability entrepreneurship, there's lack of community awareness on what some of the resources are. And there are big gaps, and we need to develop more resources. So that was a really good question. Thank you. And then I see another question. Are the myths about benefits specific to Arizona or need to be dispelled across all states? So that is a really good question as well. There are myths across the country. Yes, absolutely. Disability benefits are misunderstood across the country, and all states have efforts to mitigate that and educate people and make sure that people are not limiting their work capacity in order to maintain benefits. Arizona has a cool website called AZDB 101, and I'm going to hope one of you amazing folks will throw that in the chat um, so that it can be there for everybody. And again, we will have another session, and there's some free training on DB 101. That stands for Disability Benefits 101. There are ongoing training sessions that Voc Rehab funds that are available to all of you all. Um, so you can reach out to me if someone would be kind and put my email in the chat, and I can make sure to get you on that mailing list because I know those people. Um, so in Arizona specifically, what I want to say is though, Arizona has an incredibly generous Medicaid buy-in program. So when we talk about disability benefits specifically, one of the most common fears that people have is that they're going to lose their health care. And specifically, there are services within Medicaid that are really not available anywhere else that can support someone on the job with some personal care needs. And there's not other health plans that will offer that. So there are people who absolutely have to maintain their Medicaid in order to maintain successful employment. And then they're concerned that when they work, they're going to lose their Medicaid. So we have Medicaid buy-in in Arizona that allows people to earn roughly around $70,000 a year and maintain their health care. Based on an individual's income, they may have a monthly out-of-pocket cost, but the maximum they will pay is $35 a month. So someone could pay 70, or someone could earn $70,000 a year and pay $35 a month and maintain their health care. So if you're sitting there going, oh, I had no idea, those are the myths about disability benefits that people are not aware of, that we need to help people to understand. It's a legitimate fear people have. We have to give them the resources to understand what their options are. And yes, that is the Access Freedom to Work program. And in Sedona, thank you for putting DB 101 in the chat. It can be very difficult to navigate. Yes, Nicole. And anyone, reach out to me. We can work through some of this. Ability 360 is officially, they are our official benefits planners for the state. I know that there are some other entities around the state who've gone ahead and invested in the training to have some of their staff trained as benefits planners. It's a very intensive training. But at Ability 360, Ivan Rivera and his team are available to help. So consider income earned from work training programs. It's going to all be dependent on the individual. So that can get tricky. But DB 101 has an estimator for Medicaid buy-in. Thank you, Adam. DB 101 does have information on all tax eligibility, Fiona. So I'll sit down with you and go through that at something if you want. Yeah, they do. Okay. Are we good? Shall we go to question 2? That was great. I love it. I didn't hear your voices, but I love not being the only one having input. But keep it coming, you guys. Okay. So question 2. Question 1 was our dream question. If it's working, what are we going to see? And of course, yes, that identifies some problems and barriers for us. Question 2 is, what are problems you've had? And I realize I think I'm talking too slow, so I'm going to speed up a little bit. But raise your hand if you need me. Problems identified that have negatively impacted individuals we work with, job seekers, are service gaps between VR and DDD. VR is, hopefully you all realize this, a more time-limited and acute employment services. DDD can offer some long-term supports, but, and I bet most of you have at least heard of stories where someone is going to transition out of their VR service. They're doing great. They're going to have successful closure, but they still need long-term supports. And if the system doesn't pick it up correctly, if our transition time takes too long and they go without, sometimes they lose that job that they were being so successful in. Those service gaps absolutely exist. And the systems are aware and people are working on it, but we know we need to get all of that in alignment. There are limitations to the individualized supports. I know that there's probably folks who would say, nope, everything's covered within all of our services. But the community's saying, no, we're not able to offer individualized supports the way we want to, if that's what y'all told us. So, but that's part of why we have a customized employment pilot. I should have put those bullets next to each other. So now I'm going to jump around. Folk Rehab is funding a customized employment pilot that the Sonoran Center is running. It's very small. And I'm just going to be honest, folks, it's not going to be available to the broad community for a while because we're trying to do it right. We're trying to find what is going to be the secret sauce that's going to make it successful here in Arizona for people with significant disabilities to pursue their passions and work. Um, that's the ultimate in individualized support. So the efforts are ongoing to get us there. It is going to take a minute because we don't want to implement something in not the right way. We want to pilot it, test it, and make sure when we implement it, it's going to meet the needs of our communities. Um, Other identified barriers are that transition services are starting too late. Again, we know there's requirements in how all that comes together. I personally think we should just always be in that mode, right? Definitely junior high. And I know that's not necessarily how the system is designed. Job seekers lack advocacy skills. I found that to be very, very interesting. But that theme came up quite a bit in relation to if individuals are asking for the accommodations that they need. A lot of feedback actually identified that a lot of individuals aren't aware of what their disability is. Therefore, to say, they are not able to say, I have a disability, I need this accommodation to be successful. When we don't operate with full transparency and communication with our job seekers, we're not going to achieve as much success. It doesn't help someone if we don't tell them this is what the diagnosis is and this is what it means. They know how to navigate their own lives because they're the ones living their lives. But when we don't give them the language and the labels, and then the resources to research, okay, if this is what my diagnosis is, if I have autism, what does that mean? And what might help me to achieve success? We're not engaging in those interactions with our job seekers. So they're not able to say, this is what I need. And if they are aware of their own diagnosis, we still have to teach them the skills to approach the interviewer, the employer, and talk about how to ask for what they need. It expands to all sorts of areas outside of employment too, but I won't get on that soapbox. We talked about customized employment, parental fears about benefit loss. I think we talked about that pretty effectively in the last question as well. And again, because it's just always going to be recurring, and we know it, transportation barriers. Um, I'm aware of, I don't even know how many times, and I'm sure you are all too, where there's no transportation. In the rural areas, there's often just not transportation. Here in Phoenix, our dial-a-rides and those types of entities won't cross city lines, all sorts of silly things that in the end just hurt the individuals that we are trying to empower. So we know that transportation is a challenge that has cost people opportunities multiple times. And then our final question that we posed to all of you was what's one focus that Employment First should have? If we were only going to focus on one thing, what should it be? So the most popular responses were coalition building across our stakeholder groups for increased collaboration, which obviously makes sense as we've talked about systems not communicating and collaborating and having gaps in support. So we're continuing to do that. Consistent messaging from all systems and organizations. We have a whole messaging project going on, I'll tell you about in a minute. Effective communication between VR, DDD, schools, and providers. And that's not often the case. And I'll say in my more years than I'm going to admit doing this work, there are always superstars, superstar VRCs, superstar support coordinators, superstar teachers, and superstar service providers who go over and above. They attend the meetings for the other entities. They obtain the documentation and the plans, and they read them to make sure that they're informed and they really collaborate and communicate effectively. Unfortunately, that's the exception and not the rule. It's not our standard practice yet. And for folks who like to blame a system, because I know sometimes people like to blame certain systems, this is consistent across all the systems. There are superstars in every system, and there are folks who have not been trained to do it that way in every system. So we're going to keep holding high expectations and work to mitigate that. One focus, customized employment opportunities. Again, those individualized supports, opportunities for folks with the most significant barriers to be successful. Um, we're on it, I promise. Employer education on inclusive hiring. Yes, very much so. That's how we get the opportunities. We can fix our systems all we want. We need partners in the employment sector. Absolutely. And equitable opportunities for all in employment services. And I had access obviously to all the data, and it that really sort of stems from not everybody has the same opportunity to participate in employment services. And there is a strong belief that that's a big part of our barrier, and that we need to not gatekeep who gets to be in employment services. Goes back to that unemployable word again. I did pull out a couple of quotes. I think uh, I think one was from our audio, and then the others were from the written survey. But I just kind of liked these. I have a lot more if anyone wants more. But that all people having the opportunity for competitive integrated employment, that's employment first. And I just like that. It makes my heart happy. This is not as positive. If the family had more effective supports, I believe they could have navigated the system better. And there were a lot of similar contents to that. That might be what surprised me the most, in all honesty, was how much family fatigue seems to be existing. And I'm a mom, so I get it. It's hard, but when they can't figure out, I have to apply for this entity, and now I have to apply for that entity, and who is funding what and talking to whom. I have a hard time with it, and I've been doing this professionally my whole life. So I know it's really hard for families. And my very favorite, people basically need to see it to believe it. And that's when we talk about that belief that anyone can work. There are people who just don't believe it. And then once they see it, they're like, okay, I get it. And once you get it, you've got it. So we want to work to help y'all to get it. So, what are we doing with all of this? I should check my chat. Hold please while I check my chat. Oh, Stephanie, thank you. Stephanie shared information on the customized employment pilot. And then Bill shared some information about access freedom to work. Thank you. I am so fortunate to have all you brilliant people to help supplement what I'm saying with the details in the backup. So thank you. So how are we moving forward on employment first with all of this information that you all graciously shared with us? So in all honesty, these are the things we're already doing written on the slide, but I'm going to give you some other details that tie it to our themes. Technical assistance and guidance to all partners. That's how we're going to work on getting resources, getting consistent messaging, trying to help our systems come together and align what they're doing so that they are better able to support all of us in achieving these outcomes. We are participating in a lot of different groups. We are happy for any of you, and in some of the work we're already doing, reviewing policies, looking at service specs, looking at what the requirements are versus when people say, we want to do this. Okay, are we requiring it anywhere, right? These things are often mismatched. So we're here to help try to bring it into alignment. Community engagement and outreach. Obviously, we do these events. We are happy to come and talk employment first wherever you want us to, as long as we just have to schedule it, right? Um, we will help you share the message. We're not just relying on you. If you want to give a presentation, and you want us to look at your PowerPoint or your materials, send them over. We're going to do that, whatever we can do to help amplify the message. Employer engagement, that's a tough nut to crack. And we've got a few different ideas going, but there is, just to make people aware, um, that the governor's office has a whole big workforce development initiative, and they have a working group on Arizonans with disabilities, and we are a part of that. Some of you are a part of that. And that specific focus is employer engagement. And because it comes from the governor's office, it's giving us a lot of opportunity, and we're pretty excited about what that means moving forward. But we also have other things in the works. We are also available for training. Let us know. You say, I got a new employer and they're not sure how to be inclusive in their hiring practices. Let us know. We'll do what we can to help. And at the same time, we're working to develop sustainable resources to meet these needs. Training and events, it's kind of everything I just talked about. Resource development, the Employment First website. If it's not in the chat, we'll get it in the chat for you. We have a few resources for y'all. We intend to supplement and build that and continue adding resources that you all can take and use and do with what you need. We also have an Employment First Advisory Work Group. Some of you on this call are part of that, and they are helping to guide all of the work of the Employment First initiative. A specific project we're working on at this point in time is messaging. It came up in the themes, right? That there's a need for consistent messaging. If you ask 5 people to tell you what Employment First is, you're going to get 5 different answers. And we need there to be one answer to that question so that everyone is speaking the same language and having the same expectations. So that is part of what we are working on. We're seeking alternative funding to develop some on-demand trainings that would just be available to you and your teams. I'm trying to read my other notes. We are happy to join in if you're having discussions with your board of directors because you're looking at eliminating your sub-minimum wage programs. We're happy to come in and chat and help provide the reasons why, if sometimes an entity doesn't know what to do because it's been done a certain way for so long. We'll come help you to be successful in advancing employment first in whatever way that means. So some of our next steps, we're going to continue to receive feedback. So we have taken July as kind of an official give us your feedback month. Jessica and I are both relatively new. We both started in April. We saw it as a really good opportunity to kind of say, hi, we're here, tell us what you think. So we have all that feedback, but you continue to share your ideas. Email us, call us. Employment First belongs to the community. It's not Voc Rehab's initiative, even though they're funding it and we're grateful. It's not the Sonoran Center's initiative. It's a community initiative. It began grassroots. It's still grassroots, even though we have the ability to work to advance it. It's a community initiative. Your thoughts and engagement are what we need to stay successful. So we'll continue to do our strategic planning, and we will continue to use community feedback for that to evolve. We are going to continue to collaborate with all of our stakeholders in all communities, rural, tribal, north, south, east, west, big city, small town, whatever it is. We're present in all of them, and that's how we change our systems. We're trying to increase the availability of training resources, especially training for employment service professionals. We recognize the need for a lot of good support in their knowledge. We want to support all of our partners to embed their employment first principles. And we've talked about this, share success stories. That is foundational to us because, again, if you haven't seen it, you don't believe it. We realize that. So the more we can share Arizona focused success stories, the more people are going to realize that what we're saying is real. So that's a big focus for us. We are going to fairly soon, it just is going to take a little bit of planning, start partnering with Arizona APSI to host monthly office hours. We are going to fairly soon launch a quarterly newsletter that will have resources and tidbits for you all. We're going to continue to develop the resources and training that are available for you. And we are going to continue to seek new partners in addition to all of you, new funding streams. We have big plans and what we want to do. So we're going to continue to seek the resources to do that. Again, employment first belongs to the community. This is your movement. I'm just lucky enough to be a part of it, kind of driving the bus, I guess. I've never wanted to drive an actual bus. That terrifies me. So what are ways you can join in and share the information? Tell others to do it as well. We will keep hosting these topics and tactics sessions. I'll give you a preview of next month in just a moment. Reach out if you need training or technical assistance, or if you need to find a partner or you need a resource. Reach out to us. That's why we're here. Ensure that your organization or entity is following employment first best practices and principles. And again, the true fidelity of employment first best practices and principles. Support job seekers who want to work. That should be the only qualification someone needs to work. When they say, I want to work, they are qualified, and we need to find the right fit. Okay. And always, always be an employment first champion in every way you can. So we want you to continue on our journey. We have the Sonoran Center Employment First webpage. There's also a customized employment webpage. I think someone shared that in the chat. You can make sure you're registered for all of these monthly sessions. Join Arizona APSI if you're unfamiliar. APSI is the Association of People Supporting Employment First. There's a great Arizona chapter. They're working on some cool things too, and we're all working in collaboration. And it's my last slide, you guys. There's Jessica's contact information. I talked so much, Jessica. I'm sorry. My contact information. We have an employment first email. Again, this PowerPoint's going to be posted on our website fairly soon, so you all have access to all of this. And I also want to say, I can't believe it, that hour went so fast, that in September, it's almost September, our guest speaker will be John Myers from the Arizona Developmental Disabilities Planning Council, and he will be joining us to talk about systems change. We've just spent a long time identifying that there are various things that need to change within all of our systems. So he's going to help us talk a little bit about that. And then we're hoping to do something really special on employer engagement in October, which will be National Disability Employment Awareness Month. So we want to celebrate that with some cool employer engagement stuff. I'm going to breathe. How y'all doing?